Let's kick things off with a little multi-target run through. I have a 6-inch square out there at 270, a 12-inch circle at 475, and a 2/3 dipstick at 600. I want to run through and put 2 rounds on each of those targets from a seated position off of the tripod to give you a look at how easy and useful a tripod can be for shooting in the field. So here we go. So 270 on 1 mil. Pack. Pack. We'll transition over to 475, which is 2.5 mils. A little bit more magnification. Pack. Pack. So now we'll go over here to 600 on the 2/3. And that is roughly 4 mils of elevation. High and left. Back. Back. With the 308, my first target here is a 1.1 mil hold. Pack. Pack. Go back out here to 475, which is a 3 mil hold. Again, I'm using my support arm to pull in rifle. Pack. Pack. Dipstick out here at 600. 4.4 mil hold. That right edge, I might have pulled that off the right. Pack. Pack. So if you're looking for new tools to improve your long-range game, stick around because I think you're really going to enjoy this video. So in recent years, you've seen tripods everywhere. They're at matches, they're on all the discussion boards online. Everyone has an opinion on tripods, but for myself, it's not something I'd really played with up until earlier this year. So earlier this year, I gave in. I found this Bog death grip for sale. I felt like it was a reasonable price. And because I've always wanted to try tripods, I decided to pull the trigger. So you think about where tripods are valuable. It's shooting over obstacles. It's out in the field. You don't know what kind of terrain you're going to be shooting in. It gives you the ability to elevate yourself and get a really sturdy shot above obstacles, maybe over rolling ground, or out here in the west, maybe sagebrush. Back east, maybe over small trees, whatever it might be, a tripod is going to allow you to get up and shoot over obstacles. Now with that, I learned when I started shooting off of a tripod, it's not as easy as just slap your rifle on and go to town. There's a little bit of a learning curve out there, and what I want to do in this video is share my experiences with you as I've been down this journey the past 6 or 7 months, and I feel like I've picked up a couple of pointers that I could share with those of you that are just now starting to move into the tripod space. So with that, let's move into a gear review where we'll talk about the rifles and the tripods we're going to be shooting. And then I'm going to work through a couple of the basic principles that I've learned that have allowed me to improve my performance off of a tripod. I'm going to show you out here, actually at distance, because I believe the best way to illustrate a point is to show it in action. So from here, let's start talking gear, and then we'll start shooting. So let's talk rifles quickly. These are both setups you've seen previously on the channel. I brought a 6.5 semi-auto out here, as well as a 308 bolt gun, because I felt like it would be fair to give you a comparison of how each platform shoots off of a tripod, because they are a little bit different in how they recoil and how you run the rifles. So for an auto loader, this is my Knight's Armament, 6.5 Creedmoor SR25. It's got a 22-inch barrel. It's got the Knight's XRS suppressor on it, so it's a total Knight's rifle. It does have a Geissele SDE trigger in it that helps me just shoot it a little bit easier. For the optics package, this is a new one. This is an Arken SH4 4-16. This is not the new J model. This is prior to the J model. But this is an optic that Arken sent out to me, said use it, run it in your content, and we'd love to hear your feedback. This thing right here is like a sub $300 scope. Pretty crazy what you're able to get out of Arken quality-wise for the price. So this is my first trip to the range with this optic. Really excited to see how it performs. Earlier, I zeroed it at 100 yards, so everything's shooting well. We're ready to take it out to distance. For ammo, we're going to be shooting my hand loads out of this 6.5. They're 130 Burgers. They shoot very well, and they run about 27-30 feet per second is what I measured them at most recently. So a little bit slow, but we're not really pushing this rifle to the extreme. So great shooter right here. I love shooting this rifle. For the 308 package, this is a rifle that you saw earlier. Pristine action. They sent this out to me, and then I assembled this rifle actually at home. So the Pristine action, it's got a proof 308 barrel in it, which is a 20-inch barrel, and then the MDT chassis, which I love, especially for what we're going to be doing this video. So this MDT XRS chassis, it's very modular. You can upgrade it with a different grip. You can put the fore-end rail for night vision clip-on. There's actually a weight in the fore-end to make this thing a little bit more manageable under recoil. Very nice chassis. Love how this rifle shoots. Optics package on this is a ride-on 7 Conquer 3-18, and again, you've seen it several times on the channel. Really nice optic, performs very well. This optic, I've taken it out with this rifle, I can't remember, maybe 1,200 yards. You guys will have to tell me that saw my previous videos. This thing will get way out there with no problem. Suppressor is my Surefire 7.62 SOCOM Mini. That can is very versatile. I put it on all kinds of rifles. It'll knock the blast down, knock the dust down. It's probably not the world's quietest can, but it gets the job done. So that is the 308 rifle. Now what I'm really excited about on the 308 side is Ally Munitions actually stepped up to help the channel out. So Ally Munitions is providing the ammo for this video. So what I'm going to be shooting this video is actually Ally Munitions, their load with a 176 A-tip. Now I had this thing down at 100 yards earlier. I was really curious to see how this stuff was going to perform. So this is really nice ammunition. It's loaded up in Lapua brass. That A-tip bullet is a premium performer. My 300 PRC, I've taken that out to a mile and beyond. 300 Norma, well over a mile. Great bullet. I think that's really going to soup up the 308. Now what I was curious about, I've always shot Federal Gold Medal match out of this rifle, and I was really curious. Ally has developed their own load. How's it going to shoot? So let me show you really quick. I ran 5 rounds across the chronograph. Those 5 rounds measured right at, say, 2570 feet per second, which is very respectable for a 20-inch barrel. Very normal. Not pushing it, not too slow. That's a great velocity for a 20-inch. What was really impressive was how small the extreme spread was and the single-digit SD. So anytime you get an SD of under 10, that is premium ammunition, and Ally did that with the first 5 rounds I ran across the chronograph. Now, how did it group? Beautifully. So I'll roll in a picture here. I actually fired a couple of 5-round groups getting this rifle zeroed, but the one you're going to see right here is the final 5-round group that I fired just before we're going to move out to steel, and that group measures right at 3/4 of an inch. So beautiful group. It was a little bit of mirage out there earlier. Probably could have done better if I didn't have the mirage, but to lay down and just fire multiple sub MOA, and in this case 0.75 MOA groups, very happy. Beautiful SD, beautiful accuracy. Really impressed with this Ally ammunition. As I mentioned in my last video, they stepped up and supported my channel. They took a chance on me. And I'd ask that when you make your next ammunition purchase, especially if you're in the market for premium long-range ammunition, check out Ally Munitions. From there, let's take a close-up look at the tripods we're going to run. So we have 2 very different tripods that we're going to run out here. Kind of both ends of the tripod spectrum, if you will. So the first tripod I'll talk about is the one that I bought first. This is my Bog Deathgrip. When I bought this thing originally, it was under $200 MSRP, so very affordable. To me, this is a very entry-level tripod. It allowed me to test the waters and understand how cool shooting off of a tripod is and how useful it is to be able to elevate yourself up over obstacles and still get a solid shooting position. So really quick about this tripod. This is an aluminum tripod, and that's why the price is a little bit lower. This Sunwayfoto, this is a carbon fiber tripod, but when you go carbon fiber, sure, you get really rigid legs, maybe a little bit lighter, but it pushes the price up really, really high. So when you're choosing your tripod, you have a choice between aluminum and carbon fiber, and price is going to be pretty drastically different between where the aluminum is and the carbon fiber. So definitely need to understand that up front. But carbon fiber definitely has multiple advantages if you can swing the extra cash. Back to the death grip, how this thing works. So from the factory, this would have included a different head, and this is something that I learned very quickly. So the head that was on this death grip was a three-way head. So it had these little levers right here that you would loosen to make your different adjustments. So it had a lever for tilt, fore and aft, tilt side to side, and then pan. So if you had to orient this tripod to make a shot down a ravine or maybe up or around, you were having to adjust multiple levers to be able to get that head where you could make the shot. The other thing is this would have included a saddle, which I'll show here in a clip, that goes into the ARCA and then clamps around the rifle. Now what you see on both of these tripods is ARCA adapters. So both of these are running ARCA adapters, and I'll talk about why here in just a second. But the BOG death grip, in order to upgrade this, I swapped this out to an aftermarket ball with just one lever that allows the ball to move all the way around, and then you tighten it down to make your shot. It still does have a pan feature there on the side that you can also tighten down if you want to lock that out. So now it's totally rigid, not going to be moving. Other important things about the death grip, this aftermarket ball head, actually, before I forget, about $100 to add this on. Other things about the BOG death grip, the tripod legs have a latch right here that adjusts how far out they'll swing. So if you slide this over, that's a 20-degree position, so it only moves that far for a standing position. Then you have the 45, which I use for like a sitting. And then you have an 85-degree, which goes way out, and you could use this to shoot off of uneven terrain, maybe some kind of prone shot. You know, maybe you had to brace this against a hillside, put your rifle up here to take your shot. You still have a very sturdy position, even though you might be up against maybe a terrace. So really nice how those legs actually operate. So we'll put that back to more of a kneeling. Other things about the BOG, it has levers right here, so you loosen this lever to adjust your height, and then you tighten it back down. And as you can see, the BOG has 3 sections. So that would be fully extended right there. When this thing is fully extended in the 20-degree position, it's just about perfect for me to shoot from a standing position and a level direction. So now let's take a look at our other tripod, which represents a different end of the spectrum. So that's your BOG. This thing's pretty heavy. I can't remember the weight, but it is very sturdy, very nice to shoot off of, and you'll see that here in the video in just a second. So this Sunwayfoto tripod, as I mentioned, is carbon fiber. So it's a little bit different feel on the legs. These are very sturdy. They won't get as cold, say, as metal, and they'll be a little bit lighter. So carbon fiber definitely is a premium if you can swing the price. If you're just target shooting, honestly, the aluminum works just fine, and I'll show you that in the video. Now, this Sunwayfoto, as well as your other more premium tripods, are going to come with a ball head. And I like this ball head because it's more integrated down into the tripod leg, so a little bit lower center of gravity. To me, it's a little bit easier to shoot off of than this one that is way up over the top of the tripod. So a little bit more integrated. From the factory, this includes the ball head, which has a lever, which I'll show you to actually adjust, make your shot. And this one has a lever here to clamp the ARCA. So very easy to clamp in and out. You have a tension screw right here to tighten this down, and this thing locks up very rigid, which I'll show you in the video. Other adjustments on the Sunwayfoto, the legs have positions just like the BOG. So this little latch, if I pull this latch out and now push that leg, I can swing it out to about a 45-degree position. And then I can swing it on out probably to about an 85-degree position, similar to the BOG. So this thing will get way out there. Say you got to take that same shot off of uneven, maybe a terrace. It'll do it. It's just kind of a spring latch that you hold right here to make your adjustment. So very easy to adjust, very quick. You move into the more premium tripods, you move into these twist locks, which I really like. So you just loosen, and now you can slide your legs in or out, just like so. Very quick and easy. Let's put that back out. The other thing you're going to notice about the Sunwayfoto is it actually has 4 sections versus 3, even though it achieves about the same height. So I got 1, 2, you can slide this one out, and then you've got the final one right here, which slides on out. And I really like the 4 sections. To me, it makes it a little bit easier to kind of fine tune your shooting height. So definitely this is a more expensive tripod. I'd say this tripod cost, I want to say about 3 to 4 times more expensive than the Bog, all said and done. Now there are deals online, but your carbon fiber tripods are not going to be cheap. But if you're serious about shooting off of a tripod, I really prefer a setup like this. Just a little bit more sturdy, it's a little bit easier to use, it's a really nice setup, especially if you're going to be hunting. Nothing wrong with this, but these more expensive tripods definitely do have their perks. So let's talk attaching your rifle to the tripod. There are definitely a couple of different options out there, and they each have their pros and cons. So first off, say the Sunwayfoto or the Bog, where I adapted the ARCA rail with the ball head onto that tripod, now have an ARCA adapter built into the tripod. Really slick, because then rifles that are set up with an ARCA rail just clamp right in. So for instance, this SR25, which has a Sunwayfoto M-LOK rail attached to the handguard, just sets in, and then you close the lever, and now my rifle is attached to the tripod. Very solid, not really going to move around very much. You think about that MDT chassis, the XRS, it already has the ARCA rail built in, so I don't have to add anything extra like I did here on this SR25. So very sturdy. I really like shooting out of the ARCA rail when it's clamped in like that. The other option, maybe your rifle is not set up with an ARCA rail built in or with M-LOK where you can attach an adapter plate. So you have something like a saddle. So this saddle, which is ARCA, will set right in the ball head there. Clamp that down. So now your saddle's in there nice and tight. A little bit of slop in that one, which I could tighten up. Then you would just set your rifle in. So you have a hunting rifle, and you just tighten down the clamps on the saddle, which kind of pinch the rifle into the saddle. And when you put enough pressure on it, something like that, now you're in there nice and tight, just like we were with the ARCA rail. Maybe a little bit more play, but still very effective to move around and make your shot. So it's really important with these tripods. I see there's a little bit of slop in this saddle. I need to pull this off and tighten these down, but when you put your rifle into your tripod, you don't want any slop. You want that thing to lock down tight. And this right here is exactly why I prefer the ARCA adapter. This is an extra joint that could have slop, versus if I take off this saddle and go direct to the ARCA plate, I remove one place where error could happen. So take this off, and now we go right back into the ARCA just like we were, nice and tight again. So just that simple change right there would have an impact on how well I could shoot this rifle at distance. So the other option would be maybe just to run a flat table with a bag on top of it, but I really haven't spent much time doing that. I much prefer to clamp into this. I feel like it's a little bit easier to control that recoil. So those are your options for clamping into the tripod. If I had a preference of what we're going to shoot today in this video, it is using the ARCA rail, because I really like how solid that is. So I think that's enough talking about the rifles and the tripods. Now let's fire these rifles up, and let me show you what it's like to shoot off of each of these different tripods. Let's talk about how to set your tripod up to make your shot. So this first shot, I'm going to shoot a 6-inch square out there at about 270 yards, and I want to do that standing. For me, with the death grip and the aftermarket head, I know to shoot relatively flat, I want to extend the legs all the way out. But if I didn't know that, what I'm looking for in a standing position is to be able to comfortably get into the gun without hunching way over or having to stand way up to get into it. So something, if I put my arm out just straight out like this, that's kind of where I want my ARCA rail, just a little bit below that for a standing position, and that's what I've done. Next up is your feet. There's a ton of different theories on this. Personally, I like to have 2 feet back with one leg forward pointing to the target. I feel like that helps me manage the recoil best. The rifle doesn't seem to move side to side, just straight back and then straight forward. So that's how I like to actually set the tripod. Then when I get on the rifle, I like to be pretty comfortable. So I'm just going to stand right up here close to it and then lean into it. And then with my offhand, what I like to do in every position is kind of wrap it around the ball head and then just pull back into my shoulder. So that is the position that I like to shoot from, just like this, very comfortable, and I feel like standing pretty straight up. Something like a 6.5 like this, the recoil isn't crazy, and you'll see on the video, it's quite manageable. Now, the next thing that we'll look at, so when I look out here at my target, you can see it in the field of view. What you're gonna notice right now is I'm zoomed all the way in to 16 power on this Arkin 4-16. And that is something that will get you in trouble quick. So what I like to do when shooting off of a barricade or off of a tripod or shooting multiple targets would actually be to dial my magnification back. So I'm gonna go down something like the 8, maybe 8 power, just like that. You get way more field of view, you can still see the target just fine, but you'll see in recoil, now we're able to see what's going on with our bullet down there. Next up is gonna be how to actually get on the target. So on the Bog death grip, I have a dial right here that I just loosen, and now I can move the head around however I need to. So what I'm gonna do is come over here to the target, and then aim, I'm maybe 5, 6, 7 mils below the base of the T-post. So below the base of the target, I'm something like 10 mils. So that's kind of where I want my crosshair. Now I'm gonna go ahead and snug that dial up. So now I'm pretty locked in to the actual ball head. Now on the back side here, I'm actually gonna push down to get up to my target. What I find when I do that is it kind of tensions out on the rifle and really smooths the shot out. So let's go ahead and close around. Now for 270 yards, I know I need to be roughly 1 mil of elevation. So we'll hold that to the center. Back. Impact. So you can see, very easy to take a standing shot on a 6-inch square out there at 270. Next up, let's talk about other positions and fundamental things to keep in mind with the tripod. Now the first thing I want to do is show you a kneeling position. So to go kneeling, I'm going to get down into my shooting position. And when I shoot kneeling, I want to make sure I've got good contact right here, elbow to knee on the back side of this rifle. So I'm a little bit hunched down. And then just like I did previously, I'm going to extend my arm out toward the target. And for me, if I point to the target, that's going to give me an idea of where to set my tripod. So I feel like the top of my Arca needs to be right here, a couple inches below my arm. Let's go ahead and do that. Now, it would be really easy on this death grip just to start right here and slide it from the top down. But what I would encourage you to do is actually go from the bottom up. So you think about the way tripods are built. The upper part of the leg is thicker than the bottom. So if you collapse from the top down, you leave the skinny parts exposed, which is a little bit wobbly, versus if I collapse from the bottom up, now I have a very rigid leg to be shooting off of. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So let's start from the bottom. Now I know on this death grip, I'm gonna go all the way, and I'm gonna go about, call it 6 inches or so in, just like that. And that should get me something close for a kneeling position. Let's go about. So I'm just kind of looking there on the tripod legs at a reference point so that I can determine 6 inches. Something like that. Now I'll get my tripod set up just like we originally talked, with one leg forward and then 2 back. In this plowed field, I kind of got to smash it in. Now I get down where I want, and I put my arm out to my target. I feel like we're going to be close. Let's see what we've got. Now we'll get down into our position. All right, so I'm close, but not exactly where I want to be. So I got to come down. Actually, I could probably make that work when I factor in my elevation. All right, let's try to make a couple of shots. It's 6-inch square at 270. Now again, I'm kneeling. I have my elbow resting on my knee. I'm pulling into the ball head to put the rifle on my shoulder. I need to go ahead and make an adjustment here. Remember, I like to start kind of there at the base of the T-post. And now I'm going to push the rig into the target. I need 1 mil of elevation. can see as a shooter I feel much more stable, so let's make some impacts. Impact. Impact. Again, really easy. I feel much more stable in this kneeling position. But next up, let's try seated. So no problem making hits on a 6-inch square off the tripod from a standing or a kneeling position. But I want to get even more sturdy, and the way to do that is to go lower, but also wider. So when you're setting your tripod up, the lower and the wider you can get, the more stable you'll be, especially when you can get some kind of rear support. So I think what you're going to see when I go to a seated position right here is an extremely sturdy shooting position. And I'm really excited to show that to you. We're going to have no problem connecting. So to get down to the seating position, this SR25 is clear. It's on safe. Let me unclip it. Set it on the ground right here. And then we're going to go ahead and collapse our tripod legs all the way down, just like so. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and set my tripod up with the leg toward the target like we talked about. And I'm going to get down into my seated position and show you what I'm looking for. So when I'm in a seated position with the tripod pointed to the target, I'm going to pull my legs in tight to bring my knees up just a little bit, because that's where I'm going to want to rest when I make this shot. So I put my arm out facing to the target, and you can see I'm way too high. So I need to get my legs down lower, although I'm all the way collapsed. So to do that, on this bog, let's move the legs to the 45-degree position, just like so. Get them extended out, pointed to the target, just like we've been talking. Now I think what you're going to find when I put my arm toward my target, my arca plate is exactly where I want it for this rifle. So let's go ahead and get our rifle. Put it up here on our tripod. Here's the target. We'll go ahead and load up and we'll make our shots. Pull my knees in tight. All right, so we're not pointed exactly at the target. I'll move my body to make that happen. And actually, I kind of like where this thing is naturally sitting. That's going to allow me to now push down into it to get on my target. So, see if we can make a hit. Remember, 1 mil of elevation. Impact. 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 No problem from a seated position. I love shooting off a tripod. From a seated position, it's very sturdy, allows me to spot my impacts really easily. Now, that shows you how stable you can be from a standing, kneeling, and seated position. Now let's swap over and we'll run through the Sunwayfoto carbon fiber tripod with the bolt gun, just to give you a look at how it behaves shooting these different targets out here. It does behave a little bit differently than, say, this bog, and that's something important to note when you're making your tripod purchase decision. As you can see, I've got my 308 on my Sunwayfoto carbon fiber tripod. What I want to do is show you how easy it is to move this from, say, a kneeling to a sitting position. So bolt is back. I'm just going to unclip this with the lever there on the side. Put the rifle on the ground. And we will get into our seated position. Now, I know with the Sunwayfoto, all I have to do to go to a seated position is move these legs into their 45-degree position, just like that. Just kind of have these little easy latches that you can use to do that. And then I will set my tripod up with the leg to the front like we've been doing all day. And then if I put my arm out toward the target, you can see we're just a little bit below, kind of where I want to be. Let's get our rifle up and we'll do some shooting. So we've got, clip the rifle in just like that. And we should be in. Now let's get our rifle pointed over there, the target. Trigger cam is going. We'll do something like that, lock it in. Now let me get my position good. So again, I want to pull my legs in tight to get my elbows on my knees, which I have. And for this 475-yard shot on 3 mils. No call. Back. Impact. Very sturdy off of this carbon fiber Sunwayfoto. Great shooting platform. Something else to think about when you're setting your tripod up to make your shot is where you attach your rifle. So it's very popular to attach the rifle just in front of the mag well because it balances quite well there. But if you look, when I push the back of the stock, the front of the muzzle moves quite a bit. So it's a little bit of a pendulum effect. Now, if I unclip and slide this further back, something like that, now we're much further out on the fore end. Instead of being as much of a pendulum, now it's more of a lever, so a little bit of movement, in theory, should move the front of the muzzle less. So what I want to do in this exercise is just compare the shooter's perspective of being clipped in right by the mag well versus up front to see if one's a little bit easier to shoot than the other. So first off, let's put 2 rounds on our 12-inch plate, 475. So that's a 3 mil hold. Using my offhand to pull back into the rifle. Back. Impact. So quite easy from that position. Now let's move back. See what we get here. So as you can see, the Sunwayfoto head is still holding the rifle quite well. My position set. Ooh, I'm way up. So I got to bring it down. Something like that. And now I'll sink down into it. And we are 3 mils. Impact. Impact. So, I don't know. You're going to have to let me know in the comments. What did you see as a difference between clipped in front of the mag well versus clipped in at the front of the forearm? So that's the end of the shooting portion of the video. From here, let's move into a summary where I'll give you my thoughts shooting both of these rifles off of these tripods. Now while I'm doing that, let me know in the comments, what did you see? Was there anything in this video that you thought maybe you would try at your next range session? Is there anything you saw me doing that maybe I should do to improve? Again, I'm no expert. I've been shooting this 6 to 7 months. I'm very new to shooting off of tripods and I'm looking to improve. I feel like I'm effective off of these tripods. I feel like I've definitely picked up enough pointers to where I can be very effective and maybe help others that are also on the same journey as me. And that's what I'm going to talk about right here. So the first thing I think to talk about is aluminum versus carbon fiber. Did you see any difference? As a shooter, I can't say in a target environment like this, I really did. Both of these tripods I felt like were very sturdy and they allowed me to make my hits, whether it was a 6-inch square at 275, 12-inch plate at 475, or the 2/3 Zipstick. Both of these tripods were very sturdy. That's what you want out of a tripod. Now definitely there is some slop or some play in each of these tripods. I noticed my ARCA adapter's coming loose on this one. I need to tighten that down. But as far as the legs in general, very sturdy. So when you're choosing aluminum versus carbon fiber, I think you have to think about other things such as weight, price. Is it going to be cold in the winter where you're hunting? Is it going to be cold on your hands, whatever? Are there other features about the tripod that you like? So there, I think either one of those will get the job done. Next up, you think about the heads. So in my opinion, a ball head with an ARCA adapter is the ticket. Sure, the head that the Bog came with was functional, but it wasn't very friendly. So when I upgraded this to the ball head, my life changed, or at least shooting off of a tripod changed. I went from having to adjust multiple levers to just being able to adjust one with that lever right there, or in this case, this lever right here, and boom, make my shot. So if you are going to get into the tripod game, I would say buy once, cry once, and get yourself a nice ball head that's going to allow you to have an ARCA adapter to attach your rifle. I think that is the way to do it. For myself, it's very sturdy, it's very flexible. You have the saddle, you can put a bag on it, whatever. But that right there is a really nice, solid solution. As far as tripod features, things like these twist locks are very nice. Are they must-haves? No. But as far as adjusting the tripod quickly and in the field, I definitely prefer something like this twist lock. And then as far as the leg adjustments, whether you pull this out to make this adjustment or you slide this side to side on this bog, doesn't really matter to me in a target shooting type environment. I feel like maybe I would prefer this one. It's just a little bit awkward because you kind of have to use two hands. Sometimes this will stick out, so maybe I'm missing something there and adjust itself. Both of them are functional. Again, maybe I would prefer this solution, but overall, they will get the job done. What we saw in the video, I think one of the most important tips for shooting off of a tripod is backing your magnification off. And that's any barricade, but tripods especially. So when you're zoomed in, you have a small field of view and a lot of movement. It's hard to take a precision shot. So back your magnification off, get more field of view. It'll be easier to spot your impacts, and you'll still be able to see your target just fine out to distance. Then we saw in the video, I shot from a standing, a kneeling, a sitting position with a wide base. And I hope what you experienced as the viewer is that as I moved closer to the ground, I became way more stable, way more confident in the shots that I was taking. So you think about these tripods. Yep, you can take a shot standing up, but just because you can do that doesn't mean that's the best for what you're trying to do. So in the event that you can get lower and take your shot, and get lower and wider and take your shot, definitely do that. Now that's where I do like this Sunwayfoto. I feel like the Sunwayfoto, it gives me a little bit more adjustment, maybe because there's more sections in the leg, maybe because it's how these angles are on the leg tilt, but I do feel like I can get a more sturdy, wide, low base with the Sunwayfoto than I can with the bog. I feel like the bog, this first section here is quite a bit longer, so when I collapse up, that's all I have. There's no real adjustment there kind of in between that, if that makes sense. Versus this section here allows me to adjust more because it's shorter to begin with. So there's more adjustment, I feel like. Whether that's true, somebody can fact check me, but that's my perception as a shooter. I prefer being able to get wide and low to take my shots, and I feel like this tripod made that a little bit easier to do. The other one is how you set your tripod up. I prefer to put two legs back and then one leg facing to the target. I feel like that's the easiest way to manage my recoil. That way the tripod rocks back and then back down onto target. And I hope that's what you saw in this video. Regardless of which rifle and tripod we were shooting, I feel like they both behave the same. So in summary, if you're gonna get into a tripod, just do it. That's one that I got into it, I wasn't sure, so I spent just a little bit of money to try it and loved it. Very functional. You can use these tripods to get up off the ground to shoot over obstacles. You can also use these tripods as rear support. Maybe you're gonna shoot off of a fence with the front of the rifle and then use the rear end on the tripod to get a very stable shooting position. You can put your binos on it. These tripods are very flexible, and I do believe they should be a part of any precision rifle inventory or precision rifle shooter's inventory. So with that, I appreciate you watching the video. This is a little bit different maybe than previous content I put out. It's more of instructional or how-to or my experiences with a concept. If you like that, let me know in the comments. I really enjoyed putting this together. I hope that I can help some of you other shooters, maybe that are new and want to try something like this. Maybe I can encourage you to go give it a try. I know, say you buy something fairly entry level like this bog, it's going to get the job done. It's going to be better than nothing. I would say if you go with the bog, upgrade it to any of the aftermarket ball heads that are out there. Huge upgrade, and then get out to the range and shoot. You know, whether you have a $600 tripod or a $200 tripod, really doesn't matter. You're going to make your hits, and I hope I showed that in the video. So if you like this video, let me know in the comments. Also, we've seen a ton of growth recently, and I appreciate each and every one of you that subscribe to my channel. It means a ton, and it's really encouraging for me to go out and create content like this. If you want to help me keep growing this channel, it's your interaction that's going to do that. So to do that, if you would hit me with a like on this video, share this video with your friends, comment, and then finally subscribe so that you're in line for the next video that I drop. I have a ton of videos in the works, and I want you to be there when I release them. Finally, don't forget to check me out on Instagram at Mountains Mullets America. It's a great place for us to interact and chat about what's going on. Maybe I can help you out in your long-range journey. So from there, thanks for watching. Join me in my next video.